Hi, and thanks for tuning in to our live radio show. Moments of Clarity with Tiffany will begin in just a few moments. Please stay tuned. Kindly take this opportunity to share this show on your platforms, because change can only come when we stand together as one, especially when it comes to ending the stigma on mental health.
You are not alone, and help is out there.
Kids have mental health issues, and we also need to learn coping skills.
Let's get started and let the show begin. See you soon.
Don't put yourself down, time for a change. Believe in yourself, time to rearrange. Be your best friend, bring hope to your day. Lose your critic, get out of your way. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself be kind, it will please your mind. Find your joy, trust in you. Put in the time, you'll see how you grow. Many kinds of love you get to define. Find self-love, you're so well alive. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity.
Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Werner.
Hello, and welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany Werner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. Today, we're going to be talking about the brain, neuroplasticity. I have an autographed copy of this book, The Bullied Brain, Heal Your Scars and Restore Your Health, written by one of my very favorite people, Dr. Jennifer Fraser. And I'm going to hear more about this before I formally introduce my friend and guest. And then to say hi, we don't have Ed today. We have Matt from TAN Talk Radio. Hey, Matt.
Hi.
Did Ed tell you got to turn on your camera and actually wave to us on Restream?
Oh, hang on a second. There, hi.
Hi. We've got someone in. I had because today's Ed's birthday, so he's allowed a day off. I guess.
Yes, he is.
And I told him that that whatever he said that well, Matt's going to be on the show. He's been here like a year. He knows what he's doing. I'm like, does he know he's going to have to be on camera and on Restream? And he's like, yeah. Well,
Yeah, I didn't know that. I literally did not know that till just now.
well, at least you got your hair all done and you're looking good, so it's fine.
Thank you. I tried.
Yeah. So welcome to the show, and so nice for you to fill in for Ed and to be here for me too. So thanks.
Sure. Happy to help.
So anyway, we have call in 866-826-1340, 866-826-1340, and say hi to Matt when you do. And thanks so much, Matt. Anyway, so you don't have to be on camera the whole time. Don't worry about it. That was pretty much it. Okay. Anyway, so Dr. Jennifer Fraser, we've been going on since I've met her, which was about 8 years ago. She's got to be like one of the first guests on Moments of Clarity with Tiffany, filling in when I had laryngitis. Imagine hosting a radio show with laryngitis. She helped me do it. She's written several books. First one was called Teaching Bullies, where, and just put it in a nutshell, Dr. Jennifer. If I accidentally call her Jen, it's just we go way back, but it's Dr. Fraser or Dr. Jennifer, however you want.
No, I happily go by Jen for you, Tiffany. And we have been talking, and I've been on this journey with you for 8 years. You've been a part of my development of my thoughts and how I feel and how I understand what people need. As I was writing the Bullied Brain, you're in the back of my mind and the work that you do and how much you create community around something that's so important. So I really feel, I just feel so great being here talking to you about the new book. And
I can't even think about how many times you've actually been on the show, but every book along the way we've been together. So Dr. Fraser here, she wrote a book called Teaching Bullies, and that had to do with the fact that she was working at a school and she caught the administration of the school and basically gave up her job. I'll give it that way because she did it by choice. Because she saw the coaches calling kids inappropriate names, which Jennifer here was the first to accidentally say those names on live radio and get me in trouble a little bit. Instant friends right after that, weren't we? Right there. I was like, I love you. I'm in trouble, but thanks. But that was awesome. Anyway, she was just describing what the coaches were calling these kids, and something that you wouldn't want anyone calling your son, basically female genitalia and that kind of stuff. Okay. So anyway, she stood up to the school and had a great outcome. I mean, basically it just started to triumph from there. From that to all these curriculums that you've written, has a doctorate, two doctorates on comparative literature, written several books, continued education for CEUs for professionals, other things that Dr. Fraser has done. After you just told me to call you Jennifer, but this book, The Bullied Brain, it's amazing. I think this is, I've written all of them, most of your work. I don't know about the continued education stuff yet, but mine's coming up, so I'm gonna have a good look at that. But where certain prominent doctors have said that Bullied Brain is scientifically the most thorough treatment of the subject on planet Earth. And Dr. Fraser is an award-winning educator and consultant who works with organizations who want to ensure that their culture is brain-informed, healthy, and high-performing. It's another thing we've done together. Worked with a local police department, putting together some curriculum for them as well. All sorts of things. Welcome back to Moments of Clarity. I don't even have to say that. It's almost like, nice to see you again, Dr. Jennifer Fraser.
It's very nice to be back here. Thank you so much for once again engaging with me in conversation. We have a lot of shared passions.
We do. And what I love about it is it's kind of like the yin and yang part. I do the mental health, she comes in with the logic and the research. That's stuff that I don't like doing. Like, in psychology, you can go into clinical research, you can go into different things, but you come in with a plethora of knowledge, research, studies on, and if I may say, you've also talked about your own past on my show live as well. So you mean so many things that you've offered and brought from the past 8 years. Last week we've had the 8-year celebration anniversary show, and I've done so many shows. I don't even know how many, with so many other advocates that are anti-bullying. So anyway, let's start where. Well, I was gonna say let's start with your moment of clarity and where it all began, but I think I just did that for you. Let's start with whatever you want to say. I highly recommend this book if for virtual, like you're watching Bullied Brain. The Brain HQ, all those things. There's you might not want to use the Tom Brady reference right now. Just say, well, you can, but poor guy. Anyways, where would you like to begin?
Well, let's begin with Tom Brady.
Okay.
Regardless of popularity, regardless of mistakes, regardless of him being a human being like the rest of us, what's interesting to me about Tom Brady, and if people are feeling, angst about him right now, you can substitute Harry Kane, the soccer player in England, very, very obviously a high level, incredibly talented, one of the most talented soccer players or football players they have in England. And both he and Tom Brady, not only do they do incredible amounts of physical training to be at the top of their game, but they also do brain training. Where I think brain training is so interesting for all of us because all of us can do it. And yet most of us we're clear on, you go to the gym or you go for really intense walks or you do yoga, you play sports, martial arts, whatever it is that you do to keep fit. There's an understanding that the more we keep fit, the healthier we can be and the better we feel and these kinds of things. Same true for brain training. Brain training helps us have healthier, better brains that feel they're more high performing. They, in terms of brain things like memory and focus and peripheral vision and empathy and these types of qualities. So I love talking about Tom Brady because he's one of the few athletes, and Harry Kane as well. There's lots of pro athletes that use brain training, but they're the first that really came forward and publicly said, look, I use this. It's a big part of my regime and it's why I excel. And so, yeah, we're all human.
Regardless of the football thing, Tom Brady is one of the most wonderful athletes that has ever been. They call him a GOAT, greatest of all times. Yes. I think there's just people out there that are just kind of like disappointed this year or whatever. But you know what? He kept pushing himself way past. He's just like older than any athlete has been and performed much better than a lot of people half his age. So, but what the thing is that the brain that I've learned from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but psychologically, and I have seen it in my clients. So when we're traumatized or bullied or anything, any kind of trauma that has happened in our lives, death, loss, grief and loss, even like a car accident, sexual abuse, child molestation, things, name calling, school bullying, whatever, you name it, bullied at your job, bullied, micromanaged, any kind. It affects the DNA in our brain. And I want you to use the almond thing, the tree. That helps me. Well, it helps me. This is why I remember this part. But it affects the DNA in our brain and how we receive information and how we will react to crises. So it's how we perceive information and how we react. And everything is programmed in our brain, and we can deprogram it. And we can also keep ourselves sharp and in a way that we can also make different decisions, be quicker on making the right decisions, and also heal, because our brain is an organ and it has to heal. Just like if we broke our arm, we could pretend we didn't break our arm and not have a cast on it or whatever, and it might heal, but it won't heal the same and it might not work as well. Or we can put the cast on it, or we can go back and actually take care of ourselves and have it even perform even better, and a lot of things like that. So
that is exactly it. The only thing where I would step back from exactly that is the concept of the DNA, because the DNA is, that's a different, neuroscience is very, very complicated, and DNA would be more sort of in the world of epigenetics, like something you have your DNA and then something, a trauma will trigger a different type of response. I can't work in that field. I'm not a scientist. What I am is an educator. So when I took a look at what the neuroscientists knew, and I went through the research and I started to unpack their conclusions and what they'd learned in their laboratories, I, as an educator and as a Ph.D. who's being trained to look at people's different types of research and then apply it, say, well, what does this mean and how can it help us? That's really what I'm trying to do. And what I found that the neuroscientists and the doctors and the psychologists and psychiatrists knew was shocking. And shocking in a really positive sense, because, and I want to go back to something that's dear to your heart, Tiffany, you're trying to remove the stigma about mental health. And I think one of the ways we can do that is by saying, well, mental health is actually brain health in many ways. And if we keep our brains healthy and we keep them strong and we're aware of them and we really try to visualize our brain rather than ignore it, and we understand, just as you articulated, and it's the work, hands-on work you do with clients. When people are traumatized, it actually is really, really impacting their brain. And what many don't know is the kinds of harm that is done to the brain by things like abuse, things like bullying, it can be seen on brain scans. It's a
right. We've had pictures of that in the past, other guests and things like that, where it's showing brain evolving and like that before therapy and throughout therapy, how the brain actually changed on physical CAT scans and things like that. And not only that, words like triggers, things that, you put your hand on a hot stove and later on, something hot happens, your brain automatically recalls that trigger. Like something bad happens, you might not even realize that you're reacting because of a trigger from a long time ago, from something else, and are reacting to something simple today, not the hot pot, that's a different example, but fear of abandonment or something, job loss, but it could be attached to something that happened long ago, like a death of a loved one or a parent or something, because it's triggering loss and emotionally in the back of our brain. It's time to take our first break though. And we have so much more to cover, but we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment. Please stay tuned.
You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
Hello, my name is Lucy Lopes, and I'm a real estate agent that supports ending the stigma on mental health with Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I am also passionate about helping you buy or sell your home. With times being so difficult, I'm here to help. Contact me at lucylopes.com. That's LUCYLOPES.com. Let me assist you through this pandemic and know that you are not alone.
Hi, this is Tiffany Werner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
Are you looking for a great book? If you like to root for the underdog, Joe Potosi's book is a book for you. A real American odyssey that will grab your attention with its fast-moving narrative. You won't be able to put this masterpiece down. When the Dust Settled by Joe Potosi. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Zulin Press.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Warner.
Hi, and welcome back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany Warner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today, I've got a good friend of mine and wonderful doctor of literature, comparative literature, and has written several books. The one I really want to focus on today is called The Bullied Brain: Heal Your Scars and Restore Your Health. And welcome back to Moments of Clarity, award-winning author, and so much more, Dr. Jennifer Fraser.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany.
We have some, and I would like to welcome anyone who would like to call in, 866-826-1340, 866-826-1340. If you'd like to join the conversation or leave some feedback, you're welcome to 866-826-1340. While we were on our break, we've got a lot of very wonderful, and I'm very grateful, comments from the chat. And one of them kind of struck me that maybe we want to touch on, that it said that I gotta find it. It was on the lines that if you were traumatized as a child, does that mean that you're going to be traumatized for life?
That's a fantastic question, and the subtitle of my book says it all.
Here it is. I found it. So, childhood trauma affect the brain for a lifetime? And that's from Sean Klinkhammer Sr. off of YouTube. Thanks for leaving that comment.
And it's a heartbreaking comment in a sense. And I'm super excited and happy to tell you that the neuroscientists will tell you absolutely not. Your brain, all people's brains, is innately wired to heal. Our brains, just like our bodies, have an immense capacity to repair and recover. Now, the important piece, though, it goes back to something Tiffany said, which is that if you're not aware, if you don't know you've been harmed, you might find yourself in a pattern where, let's say if we go back to the hot stove, or if you're feeling a loss, every single time something comes that resembles that, you keep reinterpreting your present according to the past. And so this is why working with a mental health practitioner is so incredibly important, because they help you unpack those things. From a neuroscience point of view, it's kind of, the analogy is, again, going back to the gym. You can go to the gym and work out. Doesn't mean you don't need a doctor. You can do brain exercises, brain training, mindfulness, fitness. Doesn't mean you don't need a mental health practitioner. It's the combination of the two that's incredibly healthy. So the one-on-one or group work unpacking that you do, if you marry that with evidence-based practices from science, like well, we talked a little bit about brain training. There's very specific brain training that I talk about in the book, and it's the one that we were talking about that Tom Brady uses and Harry King uses. And I just want to circle back to something Tiffany said that's important. She said, look at Tom Brady. He's so much older. He's 45, and he's competing with 21 and 22-year-old brains, and he's outperforming them. How is that possible? Well, this brain training program is called
45 isn't even that old, but for football it is. Imagine how many concussions and all this jolting around, you know.
Well, It's a really good point, because one of the ways, or one of the reasons why Tom Brady and his trainer, Alex Guerrero, got interested in brain training was because of concussions. And it goes back to this question in a really important way. We now know a concussion is a traumatic brain injury. Can you recover? Absolutely. Are there very specific interventions you need to do in order to recover? Just like a broken arm, as Tiffany was saying before? Absolutely. So, I mean, in my book, this is the kind of work that I detail. I talk about what you can see on a brain scan when brains get hurt. I talk about the fact that our society has sort of developed a normalized bullying abuse paradigm. Like, it's become way too common. We look the other way when it happens. We don't get kids or adults the help they need. So we have to really take charge ourselves and get inspired and motivated and empowered to care for our own brain health. But let me just end on saying, can you repair and restore your brain to organic brain health by doing evidence-based practices and working with a mental health practitioner? Absolutely.
I've seen it happen too, and like that. I've seen people, and this is the rewarding part of what I do for a living. I've seen people actually break themselves down and all of a sudden build themselves up. And the breaking of someone down is hard, because it's so much easier to just fall apart than it is to put yourself back together, for sure. However, when you put yourself back together and rebuild yourself better than the foundation that you were standing on before, because rock bottom could be the foundation that we rebuild ourselves, right? It's so rewarding to see people that actually come back to me years later, some of them decades. They just want to refresh or let me know how they're doing, or they got through that and they want to get through something different, because I've seen it myself. I've seen brain scans, I've seen the scientific part of it, but I've also seen it in most of my clients. Like, pretty much, I wouldn't keep doing what I'm doing if I didn't think it worked. There's some people that probably aren't really good at their job or whatever, and they maybe should stop. I don't know. But I continue doing what I'm doing. I like seeing the progress and everything. Anyone with questions, if you'd like to call in, it's 866-826-1340. 866-826-1340. You can call in, ask a live question. Ed's on break today. It's his birthday, but say hi to Matt at Tan Talk Radio. 866-826-1340. And join the discussion. You have questions, and we also have live comments on chat. We're on YouTube. You can just go to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. We're live there on Facebook at Tiffany Warner, WERHNER. Also Twitter at MOC with Tiffany, and LinkedIn live. But YouTube's really easy. Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. We're just right there. Anyway, just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that they could call in. 866-826-1340. But throughout the years, Dr. Fraser, and I've seen you grow as well through all your research. It's been an amazing, and I know you've seen me grow too. When we first met, I sounded so young. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing on the radio. And you're like, well, let's just do this. It was where we weren't even virtual. You had to call in, remember? Yeah. And just be on the line. And just through one thing after the other, where you're like, well, I wonder if this is, or I wonder what this is. And we made virtual how-to videos and all this stuff, where we almost had that one. I just sidebar, but did this video. It's a training video for local police. And we had it just in time, and then an Amazon package or something came to your door. We had it just perfect, and all of a sudden the doorbell, and like, I got to get that, and I don't know, we can't edit, so we had to start all over. We're like, the first one was so great. All these things, memories. We could have like a Tiffany and Jennifer show. Memories throughout the years. But what I loved about Dr. Fraser is that she gets an idea, and she's like, but what about this? You're like the the curious cat that just, I don't know, doesn't need 9 lives, just, well, why is that? And then you go and research it, and then you get wonderful scripture that's on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble. This book is the most scientifically thorough treatment of this subject on planet Earth. That's what it says and it represents the culmination of collective wisdom, humanity's capacity for empathy, scientific awareness, and cohesion. It is the most advanced way of looking at the bullying problem and solutions that directly address the heart of the matter. And that's why another doctor, these are just comments and replies from this book. But I've read the book as well. And there's parts of it that where it actually teaches us how to train our brain. And I don't know about you, but when someone says, what are things that you're grateful for? My memory, and says the humor and other things, but my memory is one of the things I'm most grateful for, having memories. It's not about the journey of life. It's our memory, right? How we perceive things, our brain. And if we can restore that and keep that sharp for the rest of our lives, just by doing something less difficult than even yoga, you don't have to lift a muscle. You don't have to do weights. There's no yoga mat included or required, things like that. Then why not? And it's like 1 hour a week, sometimes daily, things like that. Just exercises to enhance your brain. Why not?
Well, it's I'm glad you put it into that context, because what lots of people don't know is that we have neuroplasticity. We have the capacity from the day we're born until the last day on the planet to change our brains. So if there's parts of your life, things that you feel are unhealthy or are holding you back or are making you incredibly unhappy, the truth of it is you can change that. Just like if you were inflexible in your muscles, or if you didn't have a lot of stamina, or if you found yourself winded when you went up the stairs, even all those things you can change in your body. Same thing with your brain. One of the ways you can think about your brain is that it's like a muscle. It's something that you can strengthen, and by inactivity and inattention, you can also weaken it. And it can also be weakened by, going back to what Tiffany was saying, it can be weakened by trauma. We cannot underestimate how much a toxic environment, bullying, abuse, all of that in the sense of, humiliations or micromanaging, as Tiffany was saying, or being put down or being held back or being treated unfairly. You think of the big isms like sexism and racism and ageism, the kinds of cruelties and
all those isms.
The isms, right? So if you are in a toxic environment where these types of things are happening, it's really, really harmful to your brain. And learning how to become resilient, how to keep your brain healthy despite how to get out of those toxic environments and why, all of that information is critically important. And we don't get it in our society. Our society does not teach us. It should start in kindergarten. They should be teaching us about our brains. I had to go and learn for myself. I've been an educator for 20 years. I've taught at university. I've taught at college and independent schools. Never once was I taught anything about how do brains learn? What does it mean when brains make mistakes? How do brains memorize material? What hurts brains? How to keep brains healthy? These are the questions I posed to myself, going back to, I've never been called a curious cat before, but going back to what Tiffany said, I guess I'm curious. And I went and started to do the research myself, because I certainly wasn't getting it anywhere else.
It just came off the cuff, and then I started thinking like curiosity killed the cat, and I was like, why did I go with that? Whatever, it's just unfiltered stuff. I've just been fascinated about when a thought comes to you, and we've had these conversations. We're just talking, it's refreshingly annoying at times. I could be talking to Dr. Fraser, and oh, I this, or would just add a conversation, and then she comes out with an award-winning book out of it. Like just so no, but I mean, You ask why, and if Dr. Fraser doesn't know, she goes and figures it out. That's the thing, and does it well, and explains it to a point where it's not over our head. Where I've interviewed a lot of doctors, and I'm not afraid to say that I wish they dummied it down a little bit, just to layman terms, just because sometimes medical terms, when people try to talk too smart, like I can talk a lot psychologically, well, when we use dialectical therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, it really affects how we control our emotions. Whatever. Okay, bore me. I don't know. I can tell you the same exact thing without trying to bore you. You know what I mean? And without trying to sound smart, even though I am. You know what I mean? We don't have to. Same with what you do. So you were telling me one time, a few shows ago, about how the brain is like the amygdala. It's like an almond. And how does that work?
Well, what's interesting about the brain is it was when it was named, as they were discovering it over hundreds of years, a lot of the names are Latin. And so the names of parts of our brain are sort of quite beautiful, actually, if you're a language person. I love language. I love literature. That's what my Ph.D. is in. So, and as Tiffany was just saying,
that would make sense.
What?
That would make sense. That's why you got a Ph.D. in comparative literature, language.
Well, and that's why when I wrote the book, I wrote it as a story. It's not packed full of facts and figures and science. The science is there. There's extensive research that backs every single thing I say. There's extensive footnotes and an enormous biography. But that's not the point. The point is it's a story. And it's a story about how can we take better care of our brains and how do we bounce back when our brains have gotten hurt. And I tell my own story. And I talk about my own journey and what I learned. And Tiffany and I have been talking about how for the past 8 years, we've sort of been on this parallel path of unpacking and trying to develop our knowledge and be better educators, essentially, or better, in Tiffany's case, professional mental health practitioner, as well as an educator on the radio and YouTube and so on. But going back to amygdala. So the neuroscientists will tell you that the brain...
Actually, let's pause right there, because I want to give a cliffhanger, but we have to take our second break. And right when we come back, we're going to hear about this. But it's really interesting. You guys, don't change the channel. We'll only be gone for just a minute. It's time for our second break, but hold that thought. And you don't want to miss it. We're going to get back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany in just a moment. Stay tuned.
We will return to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner after these messages.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
If you are like most people, you worry with the financial challenges you face today. How do you protect your family from financial ruin? How will you reduce your liabilities and get out of debt sooner? And how can you deal effectively with the constant changes in your job, your career, and your business? Overcoming your financial challenges is like building a house. You must build from the ground up. You must learn how to make more money, save more money, grow your money, and protect your money. Forever Forward Financial specializes in teaching you these 4 basic money skills so you can achieve your dreams and end your worry. Call us today and schedule your complimentary, no-obligation meeting to discuss your needs and concerns. Call Scott Bigley at 727-422-7761.
Hi, this is your host, Tiffany Warner from Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I want to thank you for all your support on ending the stigma on mental health for over the past 7 years and with over 600 episodes, as well as several award nominations and placing as a finalist in 3 categories on the People's Choice Podcast Award last year. If you're listening to this on audio, please visit and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Moments of Clarity with Tiffany and enjoy viewing previous shows in case you missed any live. If you're interested in advertising and would like to promote your company, it is affordable and an effective way to get your company the attention it deserves. I also welcome potential guests as well, and all information can be found on my website at mocwithtiffany.com. Thank you again for your continued support, as change can only come when we stand together as one. Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. I'd like to give a shout out to musician-songwriter Don Lawson, who wrote, produced, and performed all the vocals and instruments on my Moments of Clarity theme song. Don gained his inspiration as a mental health counselor himself. He's always looking for artists to record his songs, and you can hear more of Don's music at reverbnation.com/Don Lawson. You can also check him out on Twitter at Don Lawson Music. Thank you so much, Don, for your contribution to Moments of Clarity and ending the stigma on mental health. That's awesome.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Now back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner, licensed mental health counselor. To engage in the conversation, call 866-826-1340. Here's Tiffany.
There I am, and thank you so much, and welcome back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany Werner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today I have Dr. Jennifer Fraser on with me, who is a doctorate in comparative literature, award-winning author, and so many things, but also really focuses on how the brain reacts to things that we've gone through, trauma, and how it affects our brain and how we can heal from it. And she's authored this book, The Bullied Brain, Heal Your Scars and Restore Your Health. I highly recommend purchasing it on Amazon. You can just look at bulliedbrain.com, bulliedbrain.com. And it's not only a how-to, but it isn't a hard read when it comes to science or anything like that. I get a lot of books, and I gotta be honest, and I'm not just saying this, but that Dr. Fraser always writes it in a way that is interesting and not too scientific, not too drawn out or nothing like that. It is more empowering and awareness. And thank you so much for being here, Dr. Fraser. We have a caller on the line, LP from Charlotte, North Carolina. What's up, LP? Welcome to Moments of Clarity. Thanks for calling in.
What's going on, Tiffany? How you doing, Dr. Fraser? You know, Dr. Fraser, I cannot wait to get your books because I'm just sitting there and I'm going over your Amazon page and I'm like, oh, OMG, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tiffany and I have done a lot of conversations about different things. I'm a retired paramedic and firefighter. And so one of the things that I say is mental health crisis is the world's oldest continuous pandemic that's been around since the beginning of mankind, and it's not going anywhere. And until we deal with the stigmas, the stereotypes, the taboos, the trauma, the pain, the guilt, and all of those things, we're going to continue to see people implode and explode. And so my question to you is, based on your book about the bullied brain, for somebody like me who deals a lot with men and mental health issues, we know that 80% of suicides are done by men. And so you being an educator and a Ph.D. level person, what do you say to somebody like me that I can help other men deal with some of these things in terms of bullying, suicide, and some of the other mental health issues? How do you address those in your book?
Yeah,
good question.
The central part of my book is about suicide.
Wait. Dr. Fraser, speak up. The volume's down for some reason.
Okay, is that better?
No.
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me, LP? I could hear the phone call. No problem. Should I just keep answering or?
Tan Talk, can you hear Dr. Fraser still?
Not really. If she's talking, it's a little low.
Yeah, somehow the volume went down.
My volume's right at the top.
Well, make sure it's up again because I couldn't.
Can't go any higher.
Right when she's got such a great question too. It's really not on my end. I can't. Anyway.
Gotta love live radio.
I know, right? We say that all the time. Let's just. All right.
You can't hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yay. Let's do this.
Okay, so that's a fantastic question. And what I wanted to say was the central part of my book, even though it's tough going, is about suicide. And I spent an entire chapter on it. And what I would say to men, to all people who have suicidal ideation, what I would say to them is, you have to understand it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's actually a brain crisis. And so what you need to do is ensure that you go straight to somebody who can address what's going on in your brain. You should have an EEG. Right. You should have someone that looks at it and then decodes where some of the crisis lies so that you can work with them. Just like if you had a problem with your heart, you would go and get your heart checked. You know, what's happening? Is there arrhythmia? Like, what's going on? And one of the most profound and kind of interesting and important pieces to suicidal ideation is that if you think about it, the lungs are there to breathe in air and help us breathe. And the heart is there to pump our blood. The brain is there to make sense of a huge amount of data coming into our brain at all times. Sensual data, data from inside our body, data from the environment. When the brain can't make sense, which is what its 100% job is, it starts to degrade in all systems. And just to use an analogy, it's like a concussion. If the brain gets hit in a traumatic brain injury, then blood starts to seep through the blood-brain barrier and it gets into the tissue and the tissue panics. It's like, this is an intruder. We don't know what this is. We're going to degrade all systems and put our laser focus onto what is this. And so your balance goes. You can't see clearly. You can't answer questions. You start to be confused about time. And you can't answer the question. If people ask you, you know, what is the answer? How do you feel? How do you make sense of this? You feel like confusion. So suicidal ideation, it's a moment, it's almost like an illness. It's a moment in time. And I would love more than anything to get that message into the hands of people that feel this, because we need to save them. And I think it's so important. If we even just got them to understand, you wouldn't do something drastic if you were having a problem with your heart. You would go to a professional, you would get your heart assessed, and you would get on a plan to get better. Same thing with suicidal ideation. Your brain is panicking in some way. Go to a brain expert, get the data that you need, and start on a path with a mental health practitioner. Get better.
Exactly. Like sometimes with our heart or whatever, we need blood pressure medication or blood thinners or something because our arteries aren't pumping blood the right way. Well, same thing with serotonin, endorphins, dopamine. We need those things to be happy. And depression is a very serious thing. Not all people with depression are suicidal. And that's another misconception, and that's another show. But a lot of times with depression, it's feeling physically down, or like you have the flu or lack of motivation. It doesn't mean crying excessively. Not every single person with depression has that. It sometimes does have those symptoms. Sometimes it's the suicidal ideation, things like that. But not all cases of depression have all of that. As for which is men and the brain, I think, okay, you got to read the book. I appreciate you calling in.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Yes. Thank you for calling in. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to let you go. But what a great question. And yes, we've had a lot of discussions, Larry Penton and I, and you know, this would be someone to have on your show, Larry. Trigger warning talk show. Did I remember the last two words this time? I always leave out the last two words. What?
You always leave out the trigger warning talk podcast.
Talk podcast. Well,
yeah. And your episode is coming out next Thursday. I wanted to tell you that also.
Ooh, where I was interviewed is coming out next Thursday. I was interviewed like a month ago, 2 months ago. I forget what I even talked to them. It'll be interesting to watch it again. Anyway, no. And I always love. Thank you so much for calling in and being dedicated to helping me end the stigma on mental health as well.
That's right.
Oh, be out. Drop the mic. Thanks for calling in. Anyway, Dr. Fraser, seriously, I interview a lot of authors and things like that, and there's very few that I really highly recommend. And if he was on Amazon, you see my recommendation and my review that, I don't write many reviews. So mostly because I don't know what to say. You want to sound smart if you're going to write a review and just whatever. And as a psychotherapist, we tend to get wordy. I don't know. So, but I felt compelled to do that. And we've talked about this book several times. And most of my books, and I'm telling the truth here, are at my personal work office. This one's in my home office. So I keep this with me, and there are no coaster marks. With some books, some books you see little ring marks on them. Not this one. Just saying. No offense to anyone that sent me a book. It's not yours either. Anyway, Dr. Fraser, any takeaways really quick because we have maybe 2 minutes and we have to wrap up.
Yeah, I just think we should circle back to amygdala. I just want to say one fast thing about it because we forgot
and then I get all off track. Let's do that, please.
Yeah. So a neuroscientist would tell you that your brain actually is always working as a vast network. It's not like you can separate parts out, just like you can't separate parts out of the body. You know, your wrist is affected by your elbow, which is affected by your fingers, etc. The brain is the same way. But for the sake of us who are not neuroscientists and we want to talk about the brain, it's helpful to understand and isolate and talk about aspects of it. And one of the aspects of the brain is the amygdala. And it's like an air traffic controller. Sorry?
But I said amygdala. It's just the way I was able to remember it. I'm just kidding around. Go on. Sorry.
It's like an air traffic controller. It's like a threat system detector. It does many complex things like the rest of the brain. But one of the things that it does is it looks for danger. And one of the things we don't want to do, and this goes back to LP's comment, we don't want to become hypervigilant, or we don't want to, going back to what Tiffany said, be someone who's always watching for the stove that's going to burn our hand, because it takes a huge amount of resources from other parts of our brain, like the brain's need for connection, the brain's need for problem solving and creativity and joy and being in nature and empathy and all of these amazing things our brains can do. So that's amygdala. That would just be one good example. I could talk about all different aspects of the brain in that regard, and learning about them and how they work. I talk a lot about it in the book and ways that we can work with these various aspects of our brain to be happy and healthy and high performing. So yeah, my big takeaway would be the more you know about your brain, the more you can work with it and not have it working against you. And that's why I wrote the book, and people have described it as a page turner about neuroscience. So I thought that was a great compliment. Yeah.
I wish I would have said it that way, because it is. It's verbally I did, but my review, typing it out, it's hard to come up with exactly how to say it without being too lengthy. You want to say what you want to say, but it's definitely hard to put down. Like I said, I don't have any ring marks of my glass on my nightstand, anything like that, because it is hard to put down, and it's one that you kind of want to share, but mine's autographed, so don't ask for mine. You have to get your own copy, and it's well worth the privilege. So I have an autographed copy, so you're gonna have to get your own, and you can get your own on Amazon. And or go to the website, the Bullied Brain, or bulliedbrain.com. All right. Right? There's no it's
That's
Bullied
right.
Brain.
Bulliedbrain.com. Yeah.
I highly recommend to go do it today. Read it up, because nothing is worse than losing your mind, right? And if we can empower ourselves, then, people say, oh, you're gaining a few pounds. We start walking more, exercising, watching what we eat. Let's take care of our mind. And there's no shame or stigma in feeling that things are not okay. There's no shame in wanting to improve or enhance our memory, enhance our mind, and get rid of old triggers, get rid of past undeserved guilt, undeserved shame, things that we are carrying with us that make us fear of the unknown, anxiety driven, heightened other things that we can learn from all those things in the past, but we can also unlearn. And this is one of the ways. Dr. Fraser, thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm sure we'll see you again. Everyone for watching. Happy Friday. And Matt at Tan Talk Radio, welcome to Moments of Clarity. Thanks for being here. And everyone have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you next Friday, every Friday, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live with your comments and with your call-in. Every Friday, 12 to 1. See ya. Thank you so much.
Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments. Don't put yourself down, time for a change. Believe in yourself, time to rearrange. Be your best friend, bring hope to your day. Lose your critic, get out of your way. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself be kind, it will please your mind. Find your joy, trust in you. Put in the time, you'll see how you grow. Many kinds of love you get to define. Find self-love, you're so well alive. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity.